I am sorry, I ran out of time on that last one. This is probably going to take up a couple videos. I still want to upload it even if half of you are bored to death right now. Now my number 7 is definitely a complete chick flick. There is no question. It is built around romance, around the friendship between women. It has all the hallmarks of a traditional chick flick, and it doesn't really break any cliches, but it's the way it pulls off the cliches that makes me really enjoy it, and mostly it's the casting decision, especially for the main character. And that film is The Truth About Cats and Dogs, starring the dream team of Janeane Garofalo and Uma Thurman. The protagonist is played by Janeane Garofalo, which is really what I like about this movie. She's a fantastic actress. She's funny, she's quirky, she's identifiable, and she plays a character who's wonderfully funny, quirky, and identifiable. The plot of this is basically a female version of Cyrano de Bergerac. What happens is that Garofalo's character hosts a radio show during which she has a big personality that all her listeners love, and one of her callers to ask for advice, because her show is about taking care of animals, hence kind of where the title comes from. He calls for advice about one of his pets. She gives it to him, and he becomes enamored. But when they arrange to meet, Garofalo's character is, she's short, brunette, she's not traditionally beautiful, and she doesn't have real good self-image. So she hires Uma Thurman, who plays a supermodel in this film, to stand in for her and act as her physically, while she carries out a relationship over the phone with her man, so that he gets to know her personality and he falls in love with that. The phone conversation scene is, again, one of the most romantic things I have ever seen in love story films. But when they're in person, Thurman is basically doing Garofalo's role for her and acting to impress this guy so that Garofalo hopes she can eventually reveal her true self to him and he won't be turned off. The complication comes when they decide to finally reveal that they've been doing the double act and playing the same person, but they actually kind of poke fun at the supermodel culture a bit here, because when Thurman goes to tell the guy the truth by turning on Garofalo's radio show while she's in the same room as him, he has surprised her with this giant tray of chocolates, stuff that she never gets to eat while she's on her career, and so she wants to perpetuate a relationship with him just because he can get her this delicious food, which is kind of shallow, but also kind of funny when they poke fun at the model business like that. Well, you know how this ends. Eventually they reveal the truth. Garofalo and the guy end up happy together, and Thurman is single, but she's still happy. And really, it is a cliched plot. And like I said, it's been done before. It's Cyrano de Bergerac, basically. But it's the characters that really pull this through. Garofalo's character is, like I said, incredibly quirky, and while at first you're supposed to get this impression that Uma Thurman is sort of a dumb blonde, she becomes more fleshed out and more likable over the course of the story. And actually the two women are a lot more likable than the guy. But characterization, it makes this movie great. Let's move on. Now, number 6, this one's doubly embarrassing because this is not only one of those films aimed at that supposedly existent female demographic that likes sappy love stories, it is also aimed at tweens. This is a chick flick for younger women who are just getting out of middle school and into high school, or at least that's the age of the characters portrayed, so I assume that's the demographic they're going for. And that's the demographic at which I saw this movie, and I really connected with it then, and I actually I really like it now, which is somewhat shameful, but who cares? Everybody has their guilty pleasures. And so, I present to you the Lizzie McGuire movie, starring Where Is She Now? She Sure Had Her 15 Minutes of Fame, Hilary Duff. This is a movie that was based off one of my favorite sort of, I believe the term they use for it is kidcoms, like kid-oriented sitcoms from the Disney Channel, one which I actually still find it entertaining if and when I can catch an episode today, which is really hard. But it's basically the same cast of characters, but it's also a story that can stand on its own even if you're not familiar beforehand. It's a group of students who are on a study abroad trip, which they try to convince you can happen at the end of middle school, in Rome. And actually, I think Janeane Garofalo plays the supervisor on that trip. I'm starting to see a pattern here with Janeane Garofalo in my favorite chick flicks. Are you seeing that? Anyway, you have Lizzie, who plays kind of the every woman. She's clumsy, she's shy, she doesn't have a lot of self-esteem, even though Hilary Duff is obviously a beautiful actress with a really great makeup artist. And she kind of screwed up her graduation before she goes on this trip, and she's kind of looking to lay low, but at the same time she has an adventurous spirit, and she ends up getting signed for a record deal by this really attractive young man while in Italy. And in the meantime, her best friend, David Gordon, is along for the ride with her, and he kind of helps her pull off the double agent scheme of pop recording and pretending to be on the trip at the same time. And the predictable yet entertaining twist is that Gordo is also kind of falling in love with Lizzie because he's been her best friend since childhood, and they're pretty much as close as two people can get, at least in this universe. So he kind of has a case of I want my beloved to be happy, where he at first helps her perpetuate scheme so she can get away and do a recording until he figures out that this handsome stranger, as handsome strangers tend to be in real life, is actually trying to use Lizzie's fame for corrupt purposes. Again, that's a plot that I won't spoil. And it comes down to her having to trust between Gordo's word that this guy is taking her for a ride in the wrong direction, and this guy's word that she'll be the most famous sensation in Italian pop since, I don't know, the last one. And eventually Gordo ends up winning, and the two of them, they realize they had feelings for each other all along, somehow, even while she was with that handsome Italian pop star, and they end up together by the end of the film, and that's pretty much the love plot. And I know that's spoiler, but you kind of predicted it from the beginning, especially if you knew the show. But as I said, this story can stand alone. It's got several humorous side characters, and a very satisfying, over-the-top, sugary, happy ending, which, you know, I know true art is supposed to be angsty, but I can't help but love how beautifully sappy it all turns out. Anyway, going to move on to my number 5, and we're going to have to move into another video. You are going to be so bored by the end of this chick flick thing, so thank you for sticking with me through this far.